Today's video starts in the famous One Planet adventure in Llandegla. This is somewhere that we've ridden before on the channel, and it's a popular Welsh destination for mountain bikers. I've had a great time exploring a bunch of the trails and skill features here in the past, and it's really exciting to be back. But today's ride is going to be a little different. Although we're starting in Llandegla, we're heading off the beaten track way out into the hills. This is a particular trail that we want to try at a place called World's End. Living up to its name, this trail is literally on the side of a cliff, but it happens to be a really enjoyable trail and I can't wait to show you. Like all rides in the Llandegla forest, this one starts with a long climb. Now, the fire road climb isn't too bad, it's nothing technical or too steep, but like most climbs, it's just a bit of a pedal fest. One that you'll become well accustomed to if you ride the trails here. Once we made it to the top of the fire road, we turned off the main trail and onto some more interesting climbing. From here, you leave the relative comfort of the trail centre and we headed out into the countryside. This means no more paved trails or ready-made paths, which is both exciting and can be annoying at times. But after navigating the many bogs and with the first big climb happily behind us, we started heading downhill. The first few descents we came across were long and sweeping double tracks. This was a mixture of loose rock, some dirt, and of course the occasional sloppy section. Riding out in the hills is very different to riding at a trail centre. There are no signposts or trail maps, so you have to use old school navigation to work out where you're going. It also goes without saying that the terrain and trail surface tend to vary quite a lot, and they change from day to day with the weather. So you never really know what's coming around the next corner, and that's one of the best parts about this kind of riding. Another great part about riding in the hills is how long the descents are. These are no 2-minute long trail centre sections, these are top to bottom. Now, this one might not be the most technical section out there, but there's something awesome about riding on unknown terrain. You can't just switch off and float down descents like these. You have to be paying attention. The rocks, roots, lumps and bumps are all there to trip you up, and they can easily catch you out. This was an exciting section to ride, but little did we know, this was nothing compared to the main event later on. With the rocky and potentially steep nature of this trail, I'm riding my enduro bike today. With its big suspension and slack geometry, this machine can handle anything that the downhill throws at it. It was perhaps not the best tool for a long cross-country ride containing a lot of steep uphills, but what can you do? With the worst of the climbing out of the way, we found ourselves looking at some awesome sections of descent. This is where things start to get interesting on the trail. This little grassy line was really good fun, and it's about as smooth as they come.
Whoa! That was so fun!
There were plenty of lumps and bumps to play on, and surprisingly, there were some little jumps to be had too, which I was getting a bit too excited about. One thing we did notice riding along here is that it started getting really windy. This wouldn't normally be much of a problem, but knowing that we were about to ride along the edge of a cliff, the wind was a little bit off-putting. This next short descent marks the beginning of World's End. The trail starts by going along the top of the hill before dropping down below the cliff face, and then it traverses along the steep hillside. The approach to this awesome section is this little rat run.
Oh, it's a bit of a rocky rut.
It's a good bit of riding, but there's not too much room to manoeuvre because it's really close to this barbed wire fence on the right, which is actually quite unnerving. It did remind me, however, that I need to cut my bars down a bit when I get home.
That barbed wire fence is a bit close there, isn't it?
As we ride along the top of the hill, we're getting closer and closer to the edge of the cliff, and the wind has definitely picked up. We decided that we would be taking this trail section with a bit of caution because no one had brought their parachute with them today. And at this point on the video, I should remind everyone that it's very important to ride within your limits and make sensible decisions.
It's a pretty steep drop. It's a bit windy.
And I wasn't the only one thinking that. This is a really cool piece of trail, and if you decide to ride this, I recommend regular stops to take in the scenery. Eventually, we dropped down onto the small ledge at the start of the steep traverse. This came complete with its own rock garden. From down on the ledge, we now get our first look at the trail ahead. I had no idea what to expect, but I have to say, this looks awesome.
Nice.
I don't think I've ever ridden anything that looks quite like this, or anything with such harsh consequences, if you know what I mean. But without wasting any time, we dropped in. As you'll see, the trail is not very wide and it's covered in small loose rocks. I'm sure it looks flat on camera, but there is a steep drop to the right, and up here it feels really exposed. Due to today's windy conditions and the nature of the terrain, Gaz in front of me decided it was sensible just to unclip one of his pedals just in case.
I'm not dabbing. This is like the white line in Sedona or somewhere.
All teasing aside on the whole clips versus flats thing, I genuinely think this was a good call from him. You really wouldn't want to make a wrong move and not be able to jump off your bike. On here there are several parts of the trail where it's been worn away or a bunch of rocks have rolled down onto the track. Although this was all rollable on the day, the exposed nature of the trail definitely had us second guessing. The gusty wind wasn't helping us keep on track either. With the first section done, we were getting a feel for the trail and picked up the pace as we headed around the hillside. The entire ride along the World's End Trail is truly spectacular.
This is awesome out here.
As we were riding, I was trying to take in some of the scenery, but honestly, I didn't want to take my eyes off the trail for obvious reasons. Unlike some of the rides we go on, this isn't an off-the-wall high-speed adventure. This is more about exploring the iconic landscape and enjoying the technical and unpredictable nature of the trail.
Oh, those gusts of wind aren't nice at all.
The World's End isn't just a quick one and done either. This is a sustained effort all the way along the cliff to the edge of the valley. It's a challenge like nothing else I've done. It may not be the biggest or fastest thing I've ever ridden, but the level of excitement that it brings and the satisfaction for having completed it are second to none. You'll never find anything like this at a trail centre or a bike park in the UK. This is more like the riding you'd see somewhere like Spain or Austria.
No dabs, come on.
As long as you've got a decent bike skills and a reliable bike, you can enjoy a trail like this. And I guarantee it'll be way more exciting than just riding your usual loop at your local trail. The route itself undulates as it works its way along. There are some short gradual uphill sections, followed by some more flowing downhill, with a few rocks mixed in for good measure. Although I've got my big bike with me today, a couple in the group were also on hardtails, and they managed everything with no problems, so you don't need anything special for this ride. Despite the windy conditions today, this was a great trail. I can't help but think that this would be awesome to ride on a still day where you can attack it with a bit more speed. However, we did get lucky in the fact that no one was coming in the other direction. I'm not quite sure what would have happened if we needed to pass someone on one of these thin sections. After traversing along, we eventually found ourselves heading to the bottom of the trail. We were gutted that it had come to an end. After the amazing experience of riding an epic trail like that, the journey back towards Llandegla seemed pretty uneventful. It was still great to be riding in the outdoors and exploring new routes and terrain, but somehow it just didn't meet the amazing experience of what we'd just ridden. On our way back to the car, we managed to join up with some of the speedy fire runners. If you have a bit more time, you could always join this route onto the rest of the Llandegla trails and really make a long day of it. We didn't quite have the energy for that, but I couldn't help but make a quick stop in the Skills Park to ride the North Shore Skinny section, which has featured on the channel before.
Let's see if I've still got that magic. Can't count on it. Yeah, only just though.
So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
And we're done. Back to the car.